Hi, third graders. We are going to continue to look at one of the boroughs of New York City, the Bronx. When we're talking about our lesson for today, I really want you to think about the cultural universals. Let me just quickly remind you what that is. We studied Scarsdale, and we know all cultures share common elements such as beliefs, politics, cultural arts, social aspects, and economics, but they may look differently from place to place. So let's look and see if you can identify your activity at the end of the day of this lesson. You will need to figure out the different cultural universals for the Bronx. So, who governs New York City? Well, the city has one mayor, Mayor de Blasio, right now, and each of the boroughs has something called a borough president that is elected. This is an elected position that represents its borough and city in government. So, what does a borough president do? Well, they do. I'm going to name the five top things that they do. We don't really need to memorize most of it, but when you're looking at this, they influence land use in their borough. So they really focus on the real estate and hold public hearings on development and land issues. So they're in charge of that. They also appoint community board members. So there's about 50 voluntary members that address local complaints, zoning, and land issues, and then they recommend for the city's budget process. Also, three, they distribute millions of dollars. So the borough president has the power to hand out millions of dollars for funding for different organizations and causes that are needed in their borough. For example, like parks, education programs, historic landmarks, and more anywhere else they feel they need financial support. And four, they serve as ceremonial officiants and figureheads. So what they instead of just being just monetary assistance, a borough president can be visible to the community and just be a voice and support them and participate in local events. And five, they advocate for the borough's interest as city agencies. What that means is that the borough president is the person who has direct line of communication with the mayor, Mayor de Blasio. And this is where he supports particular initiatives or interests that the Bronx may have. Well, who is the borough president of the Bronx? His name is Ruben Diaz Jr., and he is the one who communicates directly to Mayor de Blasio to support his borough, the Bronx. What type of cultures and ethnic groups are in the Bronx? Well, there's predominantly Hispanic or Latinos that live there in the present day and a large population of African Americans. There is a smaller percentage of white and Asian people in the Bronx. There are also tons of festivals and celebrations. You have the Bronx Puerto Rican Parade, Native American festivals, street and fair festivals, art and music festivals, Carnaval de la Cultura Latina, Cinco de Mayo, and there's tons and tons of neighborhoods. We couldn't possibly focus on all the neighborhoods in the Bronx, but what I decided to do was to focus on five today to show you the different cultures that are diverse across the Bronx. Now, here we could see this red line right here, okay? This is the beginning of the Bronx. So, this is the northern part of the Bronx. So, if you're driving in from Scarsdale, the Woodline Heights is the first northern neighborhood that I'm going to focus on. I'm also going to focus on Fordham, Belmont, the Yankee Stadium, which is, or I should say, the southern Bronx, and City Island over here. So, those are the five we're going to focus on today. And here they are. Now, remember, each neighborhood is so different, and there's cultures that vary because it's so diverse. Where in Scarsdale, when you go through Scarsdale, you'll see similar cultures, and it might look the same. Where in the Bronx, there are pockets of neighborhoods that are going to look very differently. And here's one. Woodlawn, which I told you was the northern part of the Bronx, is a strong Irish American heritage. And this is shown by many Irish restaurants all along Katona Avenue. You might see four-leaf clovers, Kelly Green signs sprinkled throughout the neighborhood. And there's no mistaking that this area of the Bronx is predominantly Irish. But in Woodlawn, the culture runs far deeper than funny green hats on St. Patrick's Day. The Irish immigrants have been settling in this neighborhood for years, and they live in these quaint homes called row houses. A row house is a group of low-rise residential buildings that share one or both side walls lined up in the street. So it might look like this. So as you can see, one family might live here, but they share the same wall, and then the next house is there. So it's in a row, it's lined up. There are many different types of homes and shelters in the Bronx, but this is just one type of house, a row house. In Belmont, we really focused on this yesterday, and we know that's the home to Bronx's Little Italy, and it has the bustling streets of Arthur Avenue with its family-run shops and bakeries and stores. So I'm not going to really talk about that part of Belmont, but I wanted you to see on the map, here is Belmont, and the zoo is right east to it. Even though this whole area we're going to talk about is the Fordham area, there is a little pocket, a little hamlet at neighborhood here called Belmont, and that is where Arthur Avenue is. Now, City Island. City Island feels like no other place within the city limits. The Bronx Fishing Village is full of yacht clubs and waterfront restaurants. It's popular with visitors during the warmer months for its laid-back vibe. You might see fresh seafood dining options and a range of activities, including scuba diving. So again, you might see these steak and seafood restaurants, crab shanty restaurant, scuba diving services. There's even a City Island Nautical Museum because they're right by the water. So let's look at City Island here, right? So the water surrounding this area is the Long Island Sound. Now, the South Bronx, as the name implies, this area comprises the neighborhoods in the southern part of the Bronx. The South Bronx is known for hip hop culture and graffiti. Okay, so South Bronx is also a place to find notable art and architecture, especially on a 5.2-mile road called the Grand Concours. This runs through several neighborhoods in the Bronx, and if you look at the buildings, you can see the architecture and art is historic. So let's look at the graffiti first, okay? Here we could see graffiti as a form of art and expression. So a lot of people that create these murals do it on flat surfaces like buildings or along streets, trains, highways, and the artists just want it to be seen by as many people as possible. Yankee Stadium is also part of the Southern Bronx. You will find that the home of the New York Yankees, the 27-time Major League Baseball world champions. And this is an aerial view of the stadium in the middle of the Bronx. Now, the Yankee Stadium, it's a great place to go to watch games for fun, but it also brings a big piece of the cultural universal for economics. The Yankee Stadium brings in a lot of money for the city. About 70,000 people attend these games, and usually they're sold out. There's tons of traffic that comes in to visit these games. There's parking fees. So this brings in revenue, which is making money for that area. So this is a good piece for the economic piece for the Bronx and the city. Now, let's look here. Hip hop culture, it's also very popular. This is where many of musicians invented rap music and had house parties and created this hip hop culture that is so widespread today. Our last area is Fordham. Fordham, you have your New York Botanical Gardens where there's millions of plants, and then the Bronx Zoo where there's 750 plus animal species, and Fordham University is right in this area. And other highlights might include a historic Poe Park and a selection of popular Latin American restaurants. So here's just a view of the Fordham area. And also here's a list of different historical places that you can also visit. Too many to mention. But we're going to focus on Edgar Allan Poe, the Botanical Gardens, and the Bronx Zoo, and also Fordham University. So Fordham University is a private research university in New York City. It was established in 1841 and named for the Fordham neighborhood of the Bronx, in which its original campus was located. Fordham is the oldest Catholic and Jesuit university in the northeastern United States. And it's the third oldest university in New York State. So that's pretty cool that this university is so close to us, and it's the third oldest in New York State. Now, Edgar Allan Poe was a great American poet and author who once resided in the Bronx. And visitors go to Poe Park to check out the Edgar Allan Poe cottage, where the writer, he's moved around a lot, but he did spend time at this cottage in 1846 while writing some of his famous writing pieces. Here's one that I wanted to read to you. Fair river, in thy bright, clear flow of crystal wandering water, thy art an emblem of the glow of beauty, the unhidden heart, the playful maziness of art in old Alberto's daughter. But when within thy wave she looks, which glistens then and trembles, why then the prettiest of brooks her worshipper resembles. For in my heart, as in thy stream, her image deeply lies, his heart which trembles at the beam of her soul-searching eyes. Now, Edgar Allan Poe, he's very sophisticated in his writing, and it's very hard for some to really understand what do his poems mean. But in middle school and high school years, you're probably going to study this poet. And in this poem, he's comparing the river to his new love. Now, boys and girls, today you're going to complete a few more things. I want you to watch the video on the history of Edgar Allan Poe, which is right here on this link. And I also want you to watch the video of the New York Botanical Gardens. Remember, the Botanical Gardens was founded in 1891. The entire New York Botanical Garden in the Bronx is a National Historic Landmark. All 250 acres of plants, flowers, trees, and buildings. So you're going to watch the video below and visit this 126-year-old living museum and educational institution. So you're going to watch these two videos, and then you're going to complete a seesaw activity that we have posted for you. And you're going to list the cultural universals of the Bronx. So you may need this slideshow again to go back in and list all the things that you learned from the past 2 days that show cultural aspects, politics, beliefs, economic, social aspects. List as many as you can. And remember, some may go in more than one bubble. For example, I'm going to tell you the New York Yankee Stadium could go in more than one bubble. So let's see what you do with that. So try your best. If you want to print this and draw different landmarks, you can do that too. But we do want you to try your best effort and put as much as you can in each category, in each cultural universal for the Bronx. Okay, boys and girls, tomorrow you will see some more videos of Fordham University, the Bronx Zoo, and Yankee Stadium. And you will have a fun activity to do after we finish the Bronx, and we'll start a new borough for next week. Enjoy your activities today.